guys, Ron here, and the concept of this video is very simple. I'm gonna document my walk during a nice summer sunset and create 1, 2, or 3 Pokemon based on what I saw on the walk. These new Pokemon can be based on a combination of plants and animals I filmed or rocks and ornaments I thought looked cool. As I walk, I'll point out all the potential neat stuff I see that could make for creative new Pokemon or designs, and then at the second half of the video, we'll put them together and create some really cool Pokemon. This is an exercise in creativity, so I hope you follow along and tweet at me some Pokemon you created using the stuff you see in this video, or even your own walks. I'm sure the Pokemon you come up with will be drenched in creativity, especially if you check out today's sponsor, Verve. Go to verve.co/truegreen7 or click the link in the description now to get a 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium, where you can watch all of mine and your favorite animes and even Western animated shows. Shows like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood and Naruto Shippuden have helped me gain further knowledge about legends and myths that you've seen me talk about in my Pokemon-related videos like this one. You don't even need internet, because the link below lets you access Verve Premium, which includes offline viewing, but more on that later. So we're starting our walk right before the golden hour, which is when the sun is pretty low, so we can catch some nice golden glares to make things look cinematic. Right off the bat, the first thing that caught my interest was a bright traffic cone. We have so many Pokemon that have evolved to look like man-made objects which benefit them in their survival, so why not another Pokemon that blends into the city like a traffic cone hermit crab? Some hermit crabs have those long cone-like shells, so it works. When I saw this row of solar-powered lamps, I thought it would be very cool to have some kind of Pokemon that covers itself during the day while storing energy, and then goes out in packs with glowing faces to hunt at night. Not bad. And why don't we have a Pokemon that is designed kinda like a fire hydrant? It would have a huge mouth that shoots out relatively low-pressure water, because it's a big hole, but like a lot of water. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here. Now this Stump here gave me a really high concept idea that may be the candidate for the Pokemon I make at the end of the video. We have parasitic mushrooms on a bug's back in the Pokemon franchise, but how about a grass type that benefits from the poisonous mushroom that it lets grow on it, which release toxic spores that it uses to protect itself? Maybe it's like an old grandpa looking Pokemon. I like that idea. The object I saw that gave me the most inspiration was this fat Buddha, which isn't actually the Buddha, but rather a separate monk called Budai. But what if we did have a peaceful little rock monk Pokemon? The concept was weak at the time, but then I combined it with another thing I saw later on in the video to make what potentially could be the Pokemon I draw at the end. And now we're just walking through a road without a sidewalk during heavy traffic. I mean, it wasn't that heavy, but still dangerous. I don't recommend it, kids. I mean, it's good advice for the adults too, you probably know that. Let's move on. As I kept walking, I chanced upon what looked like a spiky pine cone, but they're actually sweet gum balls, which is the pine cone of a maple tree. We can totally have a heavily defensive grass type that is modeled after this shell, just like how Chespin is modeled after a shell of a chestnut. As I kept on walking, I noticed this Ed Hardy heat protector that sported a nice jumping koi, which is exactly what Magikarp is all about, so we can't make a Pokemon out of that. That means we're gonna back up and keep on walking. Now what do we have here? We can make a white flower Pokemon. These look interesting. No particular idea comes to mind though. Now this is the thing I combined with the Budai statue to make a cool idea for a Pokemon. I noticed how some rocks were smoother than others and decided that there should be a little rock type Pokemon that meditates under waterfalls, which smoothens its shape. The smoother it is, the more it has reached enlightenment and gained psychic powers. When we finish our walk, I think that's gonna be one of the 2 Pokemon I draw. Is there a Pokemon that is designed after a bell and makes noise? Well, there should be, but then I remembered Bronzong is a thing, so never mind. I also noticed a few trees with red leaves, even though it's summer and not autumn. So why not have a grass type other than Sawsbuck with permanently red leaves instead of green? I think that's the first time I've ever said the phrase, instead of green. As I entered this path inside the woods, I just got more inspiration for that Stump Pokemon with mushrooms. How about a tall tree Pokemon? Nah, that's not creative. These berries look very poisonous. Is there a poisonous berry Pokemon? There should be. These things look dangerous. The golden hour makes everything look so cool. I just wish there were clouds. That would have made everything look better. Now, what are these things? We can turn them into Pokemon, but nothing comes to mind. I saw this cool decorated mailbox and thought that maybe the unsmooth pre-evolved form of our future smooth Buddha rock Pokemon could have multiple colored rocks on it. We'll see. I actually thought I was looking at a snake for a second, but it was just a black hose. So why not have a black skinny water snake Pokemon? Ron asked himself. These look like little rock heads with moss on them, so I thought that maybe I should embellish the unsmooth pre-evolved form of our rock Pokemon. And this cool pink plant was the last thing I saw. Maybe I can combine it with something I see in a later video to make a beautiful pink and green Pokemon. Sounds delicious. Now let's go to drawing. So the Pokemon I decided to draw was the combination of the smooth rocks and Budai statue. The concept, again, is that the pre-evolved form is a little rock monk that is made of rough and jagged rocks. It's a fighting rock type that wants to get enlightened, just like any monk, so it meditates and strength trains under waterfalls, which makes its rock body smooth and heightens its psychic abilities. When it becomes fully smooth and enlightened, it evolves into a rock psychic type. But I wanted to start off with the evolution first. I just began by laying out some basic round shapes to see if they would work and if I had a concept. So after a very rough sketch, I started my actual sketch. The actual sketch has more of a form and outlines the division of details, like how these gems are its nose and third eye. Originally it had a headpiece, but I erased that and made it happier. Now it's time for the actual detailed sketch. I decided that its ears should be more saggy and have two halves basically. I placed its hand on the ground behind it and rendered the gems. I played around with having a succulent plant on its head, but it didn't look quite right. And since the whole concept is that its head is smooth, I decided to erase it. But make sure to keep today's sponsor in mind by using this link that you can find in the description to get yourself a 30-day ad-free trial of Verve Premium. As an animator, it's no secret how much I love animation, and with access to all the channels that Verve has like Funimation, Crunchyroll, Cartoon Hangover, and much more, you can finally watch all of my favorite shows. I'll be watching My Hero Academia and Boruto as we speak, and finally Attack on Titan Season 3 on verve.co/truegreen7. And that's a premium account, so you can watch anywhere while you're away on your Android or iOS device or back at home on your console. Now back to drawing. Now the pre-evolved form was harder to design since it didn't have a statue as reference. I soon realized that it looked too similar to Nosepass, so I moved on to another design. This time I thought it looked more like Sock and Throw. So again, I decided the best way to tackle it was basically draw a more jagged standing up version and stouter version of the evolved form. I thought about giving it breastplates because I knew that it was going to be made up of a bunch of separate rocks, but then decided that it would look better if it looked like it was wearing the robes of a monk. And then I thought about the mailbox I saw earlier. I put different pieces of rocks on it because of that idea. Finally, it was time for a refined sketch. I thought it was better to make it as if its nose was a stone, and then after it evolves, it would become beveled and more fancy. And then I added a tiny rock on its forehead that later would become the third eye gem that would be revealed after its head would be chipped away and become smoother. Now that we have both Pokemon designed, it was time to add details to both of them so they would look like they are in the same family. I gave the evolved form that I'm now naming Boldeye some ear holes that would translate into more jagged versions in its pre-evolved form, Runk, our little rock monk. And there you have it, Runk, a rock fighting type with the stats you see here, evolves in the wild by smoothing out its body under a waterfall and achieving enlightenment in the wild. But under a trainer, it evolves at level 38 and becomes a rock psychic type with these stats. Both of them have the ability Erosion, which heightens special attack when hit by a water-type move. It has the same ability as Storm Drain, but it makes water-type moves be resisted instead of completely immune. After I made these two Pokemon, I decided to take a crack at the Stump Pokémon with mushrooms and poisonous berries on it, but was having trouble with the shape of the body. I didn't want it to just be a stump, but that's what I was getting. I had no reference for the body type or even an idea of what kind of animal it should be. So I just sketched some balls and it worked actually. I made this animal with a flat top to resemble a stump, but it isn't actually a stump obviously, and then added the mushrooms and berries on its butt that it uses for protection. I made a much more refined sketch that I thought embodied this Pokemon beautifully. It actually looks like a real Pokemon. I decided not to make line art of it, at least this week, but you never know. I may post the actual finished artwork on Twitter, so make sure to follow me there. And the people on Patreon actually got to see these designs earlier than everybody. I did add color to it though, just so we can get a feel for how it really looks. It came out way better than I thought it would, considering I had no idea what it would look like at the start. But I love how I was able to take the berries I saw and add them to this Pokemon's design. The mushrooms on this Pokemon actually look natural, as if they assimilated into the body. I guess I just gave up on making it look like a wise grandpa. Here are its stats. I decided to make it pure poison since it's not made of bark and the plant elements it has are poisonous. Mushrooms aren't even plants. Its ability is Effect Spore, nothing crazy, and its name is Stoutrot, from the word stout, which means heavy or brave, and the word rot. I really hope you enjoyed this series, because I want to make more, so share it with your friends, and like the video to show your support. Make sure to subscribe and follow me on Twitter to show me what you came up with from what you saw on my walk, or on your own walk. And check the description for the shirts I made and my Patreon, where you can get cool rewards and such. I'll see you guys very soon.